going on, guys? We're back, and it's almost playoff time. Season's coming to an end. We got about 20 games left for most teams, somewhere right around there. And spots, there's a battle in the East to be fought, still in the West too, which is a lot better than the East last year. If you remember, the East was done in about December. Playoff spots were pretty much done. And some spots, series in the East, like Toronto and Tampa Bay, are already hashed out. But anyways, it's that time where people like to pick players, try and buy some of the players that they want to speculate on, who they think could see an increase in the playoffs. And so one of the things I like to do when we think about that is take a look at what happened last year. And so we're going to get into some of that data, but full disclosure, last year I didn't buy anyone because I just didn't believe that players were going to see much of an increase in the playoffs. And we'll take a look at that data and you can tell me if you think I was wrong. But let's get into it. So here we go here. We're using market movers as always. I'll put a link below or over there if you want to try out market movers. Use my code and you get your first month for $1. Can't beat that. Anyways, so we're using market movers. This is the 2022 playoff index. So what it does is it takes all of the young guns, the main key guys, and puts them in here, and it's an index of how those players perform throughout the playoffs. So as you can see, when we look at it right from the get-go, we have a finishing total. And so this is just before the playoffs started, which is April 24th, and then Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup on June the 26th, which is right over here, 27th, 26th, and then I took another week out just so that we could sort of see what happened after the cup was done and awarded. So how did it finish? It was down 15.1%. We'll take a look at the players within the index. I have this ordered from worst performers to best performers, but we'll take a look at some. I'm certainly not going to go through all of it, but we'll take a look at Alexander Barkov, who was down the most. And what you'll see, these dates are the same. So the date range, Alexander Barkov straight down, Tristan Jarry we won't even bother with. A guy like Sebastian Aho, who some people may have speculated on. Carolina was going in pretty strong, straight down. Jonathan Huberdeau, my boy, I love the guy, but Cards just struggling, especially this year. He's struggling a bit there in Calgary. We'll see if they can make a playoff run, a playoff push, and get there. Johnny Gaudreau, almost straight down. See a little bit of action here. I can't remember. Oh yeah, they would have won the first playoff series before they lost to Dallas. So perhaps that's when they won, and then they got bumped out, and then they're toast. Did they lose to Dallas? Did I say that wrong? Anyways, Gaudreau. We'll keep moving. Austin Matthews, straight down. So you sort of see what's going on here. Stanley Cup champion Nathan MacKinnon. What happened to him? Sees a little bit of upside here, and then down here, this is when they won the Stanley Cup right here, and then he continued down. But he continued down through basically the whole series of the Stanley Cup. One of the best players in the world. Just really interesting. McKinnon doesn't get the hobby love, and it's fine for me because I PC him, so he stays inexpensive. I've said it a million times. I think it's because he doesn't score the goals like Matthews, but regardless, we saw a move downward, and we can take a look at all these guys, and the graphs are pretty much same. Not much there for Pastrnak. Sales, obviously a lower pop card. We can take a look at Kirill really quickly, and same thing. Kirill's pops were going up, and the Wild were out, and he continued downward. One thing interesting to note is I looked just out of curiosity at the NASDAQ in this time, and I'm not gonna get too much into this. However, I will bring it up a couple times. I think that these things do matter in terms of the macroeconomic environment, not so much what the NASDAQ does day to day in correlation with the hockey card market. But anyways, the NASDAQ was down. This is down from the top here, 13,000 down to 11,100 is down about 14.6%. Meanwhile, the hockey index was down 15.1%. So again, I'm not going to make too much of that, but I did think it was interesting that the NASDAQ was getting slammed at that time, and the hockey market continued on down after this as well. But let's take a look at the guys who did well, right? These are the guys that you'd want to pick. You want to find the guys who did well. So we'll start off with Vladimir Tarasenko, and actually pulled up his chart. And if we take a look, it's a little bit deceiving because there were only 6 sales. So it's not like he could have loaded up on Tarasenko. It's only a pop 431 card. He was up about 76% based off of a couple of sales here, really. You know, he wasn't up here. There was a 150 sale. There was one sale for 140, a sale for 148. And then we're really talking about 2 sales here that were at $200 and 195. So I don't make a heck of a lot of Tarasenko going up. Then we get to my boy Kale. Okay, so he's up. And why was he up? Well, he won the Stanley Cup. He won the Norris, which was awarded prior to the Stanley Cup. It was in Vegas, and they did the ceremony there. And so we knew that he won the Norris, and then he goes and wins the Conn Smythe. And what happens? Well, he certainly sees some price action. And if we take a look here, here's the day that they won the Cup. The 26th, on the 27th, you had a higher sale. 28th, you could still ditch a card off for 1.08 thousand, all in USD for you Canadians if you're newer to the channel. Market movers priced in USD, and I tend to know US dollar prices better than Canadian. Anyways, Cale Makar down after, and he's continued down along with the entire hockey market. So I look at Cale as a little bit of an outlier too. Would it have been good to hold Cale? Yes, but it would have been good to hold Cale if he didn't win the Stanley Cup as well. A generational talent. There's no defenseman in the league who's close to doing what he does in terms of the offensive dynamics and the whole package. Fastest defenseman ever to 200 points, and likely he'll hit the thresholds of the other points and be the fastest one to those two. Had a 4-point night tonight too, and we just bombed San Jose. Anyways, so I don't make too much of this Cale increase either. I think this was just sort of inevitable. Certainly the run helped, but I don't think this is just solely from that Cup run. So there's Cale. We got UC Saros. Can take a look at him. We don't have the amount of sales here. Well, we can look. There was one sale there and one sale there. So, you know, you got Saros, and we can continue scrolling down. Hedman saw a 27% increase. Vasilevsky 16, Kyrou 16, and now we're really getting to sort of small amounts, right? So saw Stammer up 9%, Kachuk up 2.6%, Kucherov up 2.6%, and then we get to guys who are flat. So the question becomes, who would you have wanted to buy, right? We see the players here, and no one did a heck of a lot. None of their charts sort of went up enough while they were in the playoffs to sell them off and then, you know, take the profit at that time. I just don't think there was a lot going on, and I think I sort of got it right that there was no one I was too interested in buying, and I don't think I missed much. So that's not to stop you guys from doing it. It's not to say that there's not an opportunity there, because we don't know what the market's going to do, but it's certainly not something I'm going to be dabbling in or playing with too much in loading up on players and trying to speculate whether they can make it far into the Stanley Cup and see an increase, because they can still make it to the Stanley Cup final, and, you know, prices could be up. Maybe that player's down or flat. I'll speak once again to just the macro environment. I'm not super bullish on hockey cards right now in general, just because, you know, we have record high inflation. Macroeconomic conditions aren't very good right now, and we don't expect them to improve anytime soon. And why does that matter in hockey cards? Quite simply, it matters because people have less extra money in their pockets. If they don't have extra money in their pockets spent on hockey cards, prices can't go up. People can't pay more because they don't have money to buy it. So that's the only reason I think it's important. Certainly in some of the predictions I've made in past videos, I didn't consider those factors enough, and I will be moving forward, and that's okay. It's all part of the learning, right? I didn't think it affected this much, but we see it across the entire sports card market, the macroeconomic environment, along with just less market participants, right? There's just less people doing sports cards now than there was at the peak in 2020. So I'll move off of the macroeconomic talk, but we'll take a look here. So this is a list of some of the guys who I likely would have speculated on. You know, I think Sebastian Aho, I'm always relatively high on him. Great player. Matthew Tkachuk, Jason Robertson, Jake Ottinger, I still really like, and he did see a small increase. Not going to change a heck of a lot. Had I invested in him, and if I was able to sell him, would have been pretty much moot. I just would have been out the money and stuck with the cards. So yeah, that wouldn't have happened. Krill was down a whole bunch. So there's those guys. Then we'll take a look at the top performing guys again, and you can sort of see this just illustrates that even though they were up, I'll take off Hedman because he's sort of throwing this chart out, but you can see there wasn't a heck of a lot of upside to be had in any of these guys. So if you didn't buy any cards in the playoffs, you weren't missing out on a heck of a lot. So what does that mean for this year, and how do I look at it in terms of the players and the current market environment we're in right now? I mean, I'm really not going to do much for the playoffs again. I'm going to sit it out. I'm just going to do what I do. I'm going to buy cards. I'm going to grade them and sell them. Through the summer, yeah, I'll be buying lots in the summer. But anyways, if I was buying players, and this is just the way that I look at it to perhaps bring you some value and give you some perspective on just another person, you know, how they look at it. I don't know how you're looking at it, probably differently. Leave a comment below. Let me know who you would speculate on. I certainly would like to know who you think could see an increase in the playoffs. But, you know, in the East, I just grabbed a few guys here. William Nylander, underrated on Toronto. I always hear lots of Leafs fans talking about him. Relatively low price currently at $150, so maybe he's a guy who could have a good playoff run if the Leafs can get through the first round. Not optimistic on that versus Tampa Bay, but anyways, sitting at about $150. A guy like Braden Schneider, D-man. If the Rangers made a run, he's down at $99, so I like that price where he's nice and low. So it does leave some upside. Maybe he could get to 150, 160. How? I don't really know. He's not going to put up Adam Fox type numbers, I don't think, so I'm not sure. Here's a really good one though. Seth Jarvis down at $67 for Carolina. If Carolina makes a run, Jarvis probably gonna have to be a part of it, and being again that price is so low, down at $67, leaves some room. Same with Natchez, $113 currently, and Carolina makes that run, we could see some upside there. And then we'll go to a few players in the West. In the West, I got Matt Boldy in here. I don't really like Matt Boldy as a play like that. Number one, because he's on Minnesota, who I don't think gets out of the division, but number two, just because his price is too high already. So we'll take Matt Boldy out of there. Bowen Byram, if Colorado can make another run. Again, this is purely price based, so for Byram to go from 65 to $90, $100, I don't think is unreasonable. Same thing, Quentin Byfield. Again, going to be tough for LA to get through in the West, but he's down at $63. Maybe he could drive up to $75, $80, $90. Maybe, I don't know. Again, I'm not buying into these things. Beniers, price is just too high, but if Seattle made a run, maybe he's still got some upside left. Certainly going to be a guy who gets a bit of attention if Seattle's playing well. Cole Perfetti injured right now. If the Jets are to move, again, this is purely based on price, down to $62. And I threw in Ryan McLeod there too. He's currently showing as being on a line with Connor McDavid, playing top line there. So those are the guys I would look at. I would look at it purely on the low dollar guys. It's a totally different environment. These guys are really affordable. It's a collector's market. You could call it a speculator's market because there is a little bit of room for the cards to move. The problem is that not a lot of volume is being moved right now in any of these guys. You have Krills who are moving a lot, and there's a few guys. But what's really going to drive price? I didn't mention Dawson Mercer. Dawson Mercer has already seen a big increase. I don't think there's much upside left there. Another one you can make an argument for, I know people probably comment below, is Jack Hughes. Again, I just think the price is too high. If they could get to the Stanley Cup final, what could happen to that price? I think that ceiling is still extremely limited. I think New Jersey's going to have to win it by committee. It's not going to be Jack Hughes carrying the team, I don't think. But you do you. If you like Jack Hughes and you want to invest in him, then certainly feel free to do that. And also remember, guys, just because the price goes up, it doesn't mean that you've made money. You got to sell that card before you can book the profit, right? So if we see a player go up, you have to sell that card. Otherwise, you're more likely to just watch that card slide down. So you got to keep that in mind too when you're doing these things. I'm going to be sitting on the sidelines for the most part. One of the things that I didn't talk about that I think is a great opportunity, though, and a lot of the guys in my Discord, if you're not in the Discord, pop in there. I'll put a link below. You can hop in, and lots of good hockey chat in there. I say it every video, but those guys are great because we bounce ideas back and forth to get me thinking differently. But anyways, some of the guys in there, they're way better than me at this, is getting on ComC when a guy has a hot game, he scores, 2 goals and an assist, and he's a third liner. You can get that ComC price going from $1.50 to $7. And so some of that low dollar trading is certainly available in the playoffs. And I think, to me, a little bit more of a fun play if you want to speculate, try and keep it low dollar. I just don't think sinking hundreds of dollars into these guys prepping for playoffs is a great strategy. I think ultimately you're going to be stuck with a whole bunch of money tied up in the cards, but that's my thoughts on the playoffs, guys. So I'm not doing a heck of a lot. Let me know below what you are doing for the playoffs, if you're doing anything at all, but hit that like button, subscribe up. I appreciate you guys watching. Have a good one, and we will check you.